Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday. Happy Friday to you. We begin today with crazy news from Ukraine connected to France and United Kingdom because both of these countries are actually discussing of sending peacekeeping troops to Ukraine. Now it's not in a situation where Ukraine is at war with Russia to send these troops. It is in case Russia and Ukraine have a peace agreement, freezing the front line, then France and UK would send their peacekeeping troops to Ukraine. It's very controversial, but I'll read you the key points about this. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron have reportedly begun discussing the deployment of peacekeeping forces to Ukraine. Should Kyiv and Moscow reached a peace agreement. There's three different discussions in sending these troops to three different situations. Number one, buffer zone monitoring. British units could establish observation posts along a buffer zone with fighter jets and attack helicopters conducting patrols. Rapid response force would be stationed nearby with armored units ready to repel potential Russian advances. Number two, defensive perimeter around Kyiv. A Western coalition could form a defensive border around Ukraine's capital, allowing the Ukrainian military to focus on containing Russian forces. However, this scenario is seen as unlikely. And discussion number three, training and air defense support. British instructors could conduct training in Western Ukraine, while Polish air defense systems would ensure their protection. This is currently considered the least controversial option and could serve as the first step towards deploying Western forces. Both the UK and France are expected to play leading roles in forming a peacekeeping contingent. Meanwhile, the French foreign minister emphasizes that France intends to participate in negotiations over the war in Ukraine as the conflict directly impacts European security. If you look at the map, if the front line would be frozen in any kind of peace deal, this would be the front line to be guarded. While many listeners maybe think, oh, it's so cool that UK and France are talking about this. Yeah, I think it's cool also, but what I'm also going to say is a frozen front line, frozen conflict, any way of ending this conflict without the Russian loss, with saving Russian face, is a loss for Europe and loss for the entire free world. Russia took Chechnya, Russia took parts of Georgia, Russia took Crimea, and now Russia took this red area of Ukraine, eastern and southern Ukraine, and they're getting away with it. If there will be ending of this conflict with a peace agreement with frozen front lines, giving this area to Russia, it means they again took a part of another country and got away with it. It's a horrible outcome. Yes, it will end the war, but actually it will not end the war. It is only a pause in hostilities. Russia got away with Georgia. Then, based on that experience, they took Crimea. They got away with Crimea. Based on that experience, they started the full-scale invasion. They will get away with taking southern and eastern Ukraine with the peace agreement and UK and French troops now guarding the front lines. But then what will they take next? See, for Russia, it's not about peace deals or diplomacy. Any kind of words are a weakness for them. Actions are a strength. You can only talk to Russians from the position of power. That's the only language they listen to. That's the only language they respect and understand. If they get away with this, if there will be an ending of this war with a frozen front line, it's a win for Russia and a loss for NATO, Europe, and the United States. That's how it is, and that's how the Russians see it also. My friends, when I do research for these Ukrainian updates, I gotta be fast and efficient because I research in the morning, then I film, and then the edit takes hours and it gotta be uploaded for the same evening. So, this is why I use Ground News, #1 news comparison site in the world. See, I am on Ground News. I have two topics here only, Ukraine and Ukraine war. I click apply changes and I will only see those topics and news, nothing else. Looking through those news, I found Ukraine launches a new counteroffensive in Russia's Kursk region. Let's see what Ground News offers me as their tools to compare news and fact check. First of all, 363 articles. I mean, this is a very popular topic. Also, right, center, and left, all of them, all of the leaning, right, leaning, left, center, they all use different wording in the titles, different wording in the article texts. If you learn how to distinguish between the wordings and recognize where they're from, you know the agenda and you think more independently. And it's even more visually clear here on the right. I mean, you can see the chart. Bias distribution, right, center, and left. Just below that we have factuality, 70% high factuality. You gotta keep it high. I mean, you don't want trash in your head. There's also an ownership tab which actually says, I mean, who owns the media house? They have an agenda. So if you know who owns it, you know their agenda. And of course, everybody's favorite is and should be the 13% independent news. There's so much disinformation online right now. It's one of Russia's biggest export into the world, into the free world. So ground news helps me to shift through that. They have a wonderful offer for you also. Just go to ground.news/Artur or scan this QR code on the screen to get their unlimited access Vantage plan for just $5 a month. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video. Going on with the same topic of the Western support to Ukraine, I'm glad UK is taking support of Ukraine so seriously, and I agree they should talk about the peacekeeping mission if there will be a peace treaty. I'm just saying I hope there never will, and Russia needs to lose this war fully. But the UK will deliver new Gravehawk air defense systems to Ukraine this year. The Gravehawk was developed by UK in a short time frame to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs. The project is being jointly funded by UK and Denmark. The new system, which is the size of a shipping container, is reportedly capable of using air-to-air missiles already in service with Ukraine. It's quite important that it's the size of a shipping container, because any war is a war logistic, and if you make an air defense system very transportable in a way that cannot be seen, it's in a container and there's thousands of containers, it's good, it's really good. It's very wow for me, so way to go. It's really adapting your production to the needs of this war, because logistics is attacked and spied on all the time. You hid the air defense system inside a container, you put the container next to 1,000 other containers, and you're good to go. I like it. Now, German support to Ukraine, because before the January ends, Germany is supposed to send 2 Patriot air defense batteries into Poland, to the Polish-Ukrainian border, very close to it. It's very good news. And the 2 Patriot air defense batteries will be around the Polish airport of Rehi. I don't know how to say that. Rehi by the end of January. And this is said by German Defense Minister Pistorius. Now, why is this being done? Well, Pistorius also claims and says that Rehi is one of the most important logistics cities in all of Europe connected to Ukrainian support, because almost any Western aid from Europe and from the United States goes through Rehi before it goes to Ukraine. It's a massive logistical hub close to the Ukrainian border in Poland. So guarding that with 2 air defense batteries, very good idea. It's also very good for Ukraine. The thing is, it's so easy for Russians to send out 100 Shahed drones. Oh, 3 drones accidentally flew into Poland. Oh no, they're accidentally flying into Rehi. Oh no, they exploded in the airport. Very bad news. That can happen, and Europe needs to take steps to defend themselves against this threat before it materialized. See, that's the key point. Europe tends to react after hybrid attacks have happened. But this is about to change. We'll talk about it in the video later also. NATO has started a Baltic Sentry, a unified NATO countries' maritime patrol missions on the Baltic Sea. But we'll get to it. Oh, we're getting to it now, actually. Okay. So Baltic Sea is a NATO lake now ever since Sweden and Finland joined. It's not just a meme, it is a NATO lake, and Russian-Chinese co-effort, the ships have destroyed one of the electrical cables between Estonia and Finland. Estonia has altogether 4 underwater cables, out of which 1 is destroyed, 3 remains. This is what we need to get electricity, because we are an electricity importer. So Russia has a capability to take away Estonian electrical imports by destroying all the cables. They destroyed 1, and now NATO reacts. NATO launches Baltic Sentry to increase critical infrastructure security. Baltic Sentry will involve a range of assets, including frigates and maritime patrol aircraft. It will also include a small drone fleet, maritime drone fleet. The point is, these ships are from Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Sweden, and they will patrol around the most important cables on the Baltic Sea, making sure that any of Russia's shadow fleet tankers, whatever ships they have here, are not going to drag their anchors like they did and cut another cable. The thing is, cutting these cables with anchors on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, dragging the anchors, so cheap, so easy. Repairing these cables takes tens of millions of euros and months. And these cables are so vitally important for the Baltics, because we import our vital electricity from the Nordics and from Europe through these cables. So for Russia, it's quite easy to destroy them. For us, they're super important. And now we're finally making the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake by actually forcing the security, putting vessels on the NATO lake, patrolling back and forth. Love to see it. Zelensky came out with I cannot say shocking, but a first. This was a first. He revealed some numbers that he has never revealed before. I guess this was because of pressure from Western partners. But I will read it to you. We now know the full cost of Ukrainian war for Ukraine in 2024. Check it out. The 2024 war cost Ukraine about $100 billion, Zelensky said on the contribution to the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Ukraine invested of that 40 billion, US invested of that 35 billion, and EU invested $25 billion. That's the slicing of the pie in 2024 of the war cost. Now, I gotta say, it's a massive war, over 1,000 kilometers of front line, all of which is a hot front line, almost all of it. It's a massive, massive war. And 100 billion, it's nothing. It's nothing. I mean, how much did the United States 2 decades cost in Afghanistan? You know the numbers. 100 billion to destroy destroy the entire military capability of one of US arch enemies, Russia. I mean, this is pennies. It's pennies costs. Although I do agree that Europe must step up. Thank you for the US 40 billion, but I think Europe can and must do a lot better. We gotta carry more of that weight. Just yesterday, United Kingdom's Prime Minister was in Kyiv with a signing of a very special treaty for 1 century. Yeah, I'm not kidding you, 1 century. But at the same time, when United Kingdom's Prime Minister is in Kyiv, this happens.
Sky. Look at that. There are massive explosions happening in the capital of Ukraine right now. Massive explosions. While the British Prime Minister is just yards away. And this is proof that Russia is not just at war with Ukraine, they are at war with the entirety of Europe. They are happy to put, and they know Keir Starmer is here, missiles into the capital while he is here, because they are at war with Britain just as much as Ukraine. This country has offered to basically fight this war for us for less than 1% of our GDP, and anyone that's complaining about that needs to shut the fuck up today. I have not heard explosions like this over the skies of Kyiv in a long time. This is a direct attack on the standing British Prime Minister right now. Sky.
I agree with every word what he says. This is not a war between Russia and Ukraine. This is a war between Russia and the free world. And any member of the free world who does not want to admit that is a freeloader. I don't know how Donald Trump would say this, but he loves to say this kind of stuff, that, oh, you're a freeloader or whatever. I see it the same way, because we are next to Russia. We pay the price with our military investments. We cannot afford ourselves not to invest in the military. And it takes away from our quality of living, because we got to pay more taxes because of it. We pay the price. Ukrainians pay the price, and there are countries in Europe who don't. but they're living in the free world, reaping the benefits of the free world, which we have to keep up. So I'm saying, this is not a war with Ukraine and Russia, it's Russia versus the free world, but Ukraine is fighting it for us right now. And to just hammer this point in even more, we go straight into the Russian State Duma. The Russian State Duma called for the preparation of general mobilization for war against the West. We might say, oh, Russia is not the enemy. Russia, some people say that in the West. Russia is not the enemy. They say they are the enemy. Russians themselves say that they are the enemy. Who are we to say that they're not? The entire male population must be prepared for mobilization for war against Western countries, which are allegedly preparing to attack Russia, said MP Alexei Shuravlev, MP. I quote, Europe tells us that by 28-29 it will be ready to fight with Russia. Here it is necessary to prepare the male population and, of course, to defend the motherland. We must talk about it and not be ashamed of it. So they are getting ready and talking and preparing their population for the war with the free world and with the West, while we, at least some portions of our population, the free world, are claiming that Russia is not the enemy and it's between Ukraine and Russia and we should not help Ukraine. Well, with that, we're giving it straight to Putin. We're playing into their cards. And unfortunately, the Russian propaganda machine has been incredibly effective in swaying the opinions of these population parts who think that Russia is not the enemy. They are the enemy right now. Going back to the United Kingdom's Prime Minister in Kyiv, it was not just any treaty. It was a treaty between UK and Ukraine, not only military, but also agriculture, economic, everything, scientific. It's a cooperation treaty for 100 years. I kid you not, 100 years. Very important to understand that, oh, the West is getting tired to support Ukraine. This is not about getting tired. We're setting out these treaties for centuries to come. An entire century. UK has been a Russian rival in the European sphere for 4 or 5 centuries almost. So they can look that far into the future because they have had these experiences in the past with Russia. And this is an important paragraph here. The 100-year partnership spans joint work on science, technology, healthcare, as well as agriculture and even education. The treaty includes a new plan to tighten security in the Baltic Sea, the Black Sea and the Azov Sea. I take this seriously, this treaty. And if the Russians had any intelligence to them, they would see that their actions are now pushing UK, France and some other European countries strongly behind Ukraine, and they're creating powerful new enemies for centuries. And now I gave some credit to UK, I gotta give some credit to the French. The Ukrainian Railways has received its first load of rails from the French producer Sarstachel Rail. Sarstachel? The delivery consisted of approximately 1,000 tons of rails, but as part of the underlying intergovernmental agreement between France and Ukraine, the latter will get 19,000 tons in total. Now, it's not a lot, 19,000 tons of rail. I mean, it's just railway like lines. You put them to the ground and you get rails. Wonderful. It's great, but it's not a lot, 19,000. Like, you need hundreds of thousands of tons to do anything proper. As one comment says, interesting development. Total amount of French steel delivered is good for about 300 kilometers of rail. We need 3,000, but still it's a good start. And for the next 100 years, there is time to send more. Now, my friends, let's focus. This concludes Western aid topics. Now let's focus on Russian losses topics. Talking about the oil refineries and everything hit that means anything. Every time I make a video, a bunch of new oil refineries have been hit. It's quite repetitive for you, repetitive for me, and the Western media have even stopped reporting on this because it's just so regular. And Russia is such a big country that you might think, oh, they have been getting hit in the oil refineries for a year. I guess it doesn't do nothing to them. It does. They're just a giant. They're a giant. Every needle pinch does something. But it's such a slow process, you don't see it. But if you zoom out, it's hurting them bad. One of Russia's biggest oil refineries is only working at half its regular capacity after a fire broke out at the plant. The plant allegedly stopped the operation of diesel fuel hydrotreatment unit, losing about 50% of its daily diesel production. The Volgograd oil refinery produced about 7% of all diesel fuel in Russia. If they lost 50, that means they produce now only about 3.5% of diesel of all of Russia. They lost half of it. The local authorities claim that the fire was accidental. These explosions that happened around the plant, they're not connected to anybody. Somebody playing with fireworks. But it was the careless smoking of our worker who set the plant ablaze, not the Ukrainian drones. I love how the Russian local authorities always find other reasons than Ukrainian attacks for the fires in their factories and refining capabilities. It's funny. Keep it up, Russian local authorities. That was the Volgograd. Now we go to Voronezh. I want to show the map first of all. This is the second already oil refinery hit yesterday. Voronezh right here, quite close to the Ukrainian border. Voronezh oil refinery, and it was hit. It is burning, and it's beautiful. I don't know what else to say. Drones go, it's kabooms, it's burning. Yeah, it's very repetitive. Another will happen tomorrow. But in 1 or 2 years, when suddenly Wall Street Journal will make news that looking at the data, Russian oil and gas production capabilities have just collapsed, we know what's up. You gotta trust the process on this. This is what it looks like usually, Russian oil refinery. I mean, they have these oil depots to gather diesel, gasoline, fuel oil, mazout, and raw oil, and then they have the refining towers and everything. This is more like an oil storage facility, looks like here. What the attack usually does is these missiles, or actually usually drones, just hit these fuel tanks, just burning them to the ground because it's almost impossible to extinguish them, and they burn for a few days until all of the oil and burning materials are running out, and the flames usually spread also. It's very easy to hit, very hard to extinguish. The latest Ukrainian air and sea campaign is absolutely devastating for Putin. While Russians are bleeding to death for tiny villages in the Donbass, Ukraine is targeting economic neurocenters of Russian economy. This is the most important sentence at all here. Economic neurocenters of Russian economy. Russia is a big gas station. The way they exist is just because they get a massive amount of money for exporting oil and gas and refining it. That is why they exist and how they exist. You target that, you target the most vital energy neurocenters of the entire Russian brain, of the Russian economy. And Ukraine is doing that. Russia is so big, it takes time. There have dozens of refineries all over Russia. And one hit to one refinery doesn't destroy it. It destroys maybe 20% of it. Then it continues. Then you hit it again. And you hit it again. And you hit it again. That's what Ukraine is doing, methodically focusing down these pinpoint needle strikes that finally bring down the giant. It's a proven strategy that works if you look at the sheer statistics, percentages of Russian oil production capabilities going slowly and steadily downwards after every strike until they reach a critical point where no more money. Ooh. Especially the frequency of successful Ukrainian strikes is impressive. Basically, every night another Russian facility in the oil and gas industry goes up in flames. We have even indication that Russia is running out of firefighting material. It is a crisis on steroids. And Russia is quite good in containing information coming out of its country. So we don't hear about it, but the economy is really in trouble. And we're gonna get to that topic also. And to illustrate more of how bad the situation is, Russia is able to have any kind of quality life for its citizens if they export a vast quantity of oil and gas. That means they have to be able to refine a vast quantity of oil and gas. Well, Ukraine is taking care of that, destroying their refinement capabilities and storage capabilities. But other than that, outside of Russia and Ukraine, there are other countries who want to take Russia's place. Everybody wants a piece of that pie. As soon as Russian capabilities pull back, it's Qatar, for example, right now. It's a bad week to be Russia. Qatar, one of the biggest LNG exporters, just announced it's a new 6 MTPA, million tons per annum. It's a very big nitrogen fertilizer plant. The chemical process involved in natural gas to ammonia to everything else. The new Qatari facility means Middle Eastern fertilizer industrial plants have now displaced Russia on the world fertilizer market. And we're not talking, hundreds of millions. We're talking tens of billions of dollars of money going instead of Russia to other countries. This makes Russia's falling out of the world's agricultural sector fertilizer supply chain a non-event going forward. The Qatari sheikhs made a good move here to capture value up the supply chain from energy. So I'm going to leave it at there. It's just one. There's many countries who are grabbing and fighting for Russian share of the world's exports. They're taking over. And it's not a place you can go back to. You cannot just, okay, now the war is over, we have built up our refining capabilities again, I guess we'll take the place back. No, the markets are reorganizing themselves. Europe has reorganized themselves from Russian natural gas from pipelines to LNG imports from Qatar and other similar countries. It's not like you can just, okay, the war is over, let's go back to the things they were. It's not going to be like that. These lessons are learned. Russia is losing these markets for good. And now, let's just, plain and simple, let's look at the statistics. What Russia is and the economy is a house of cards. It's only a matter of time, my friends. I am certain that the Russian economy will collapse. It's quite hard to get that point through sometimes. People just want to believe that Putin has like a Wunderwaffe of an economic weapon or capability somewhere hidden away. No, they're a country like any other, working with the same pillars like any other. Sanctions hurt them really bad. Exports, imports balance, if it's offset, it hurts them really bad. Check it out. Kennedy's explosive analysis proves Russian economy is bankrupt. Craig exposes hidden defense debt and credit bubble, aggravated by punitive interest rates and sanctions. It's not an economic fortress, but a house of cards. The thing is, Russia has two kinds of monetizing the war. One is the state budget going to the war. Okay, very good. But other one is forced loans to the defense companies, private sector defense companies. Putin and the government is forcing these banks to give out these loans to companies that for sure cannot pay them back, but they're forced by the state. Russia funds its war through a dual system, the official defense budget and a covert bank financing scheme. Putin's narrative of economic resilience is unraveling as financial instability mounts. Off-budget financing through forced bank loans equals $210 to $250 billion, matching the size of defense budget. So as much money as Russia has put in the defense budget from the state budget, they have loaned out, forcefully loaned out from the banks to the companies that cannot pay it back. And when the time arrives to pay it back, when the loans go south, you got a 20-30% deficit suddenly in the state budgets that cannot be covered with anything. Corporate debt in Russia surged 71%, $415 billion, or 90% of GDP, since mid-2022, with 70% going to war-related sectors. Might mean nothing to you, but if you're connected or interested about economy, this is a death sentence. These numbers are a death sentence to a country like Russia. Russian banks operating under ease regulations, leading to aggressive lending without paper liquidity buffers. They are required to prove below market rate credit to state-designed companies, meaning all of the loans they give out will go south. They cannot be paid back. And in the West, these loans would not be given out because the company wouldn't pass regulations and tests and quality controls. Can they pay back the debt? They can't. Okay, we're not going to give the loan. In Russia, government says you have to give the loan because we need that company. Bank gives out the loan, and then suddenly that the company cannot pay back the loan. What happens? The bank cannot fail. The state has to bail out the bank. Where do they get the money? Well, not right now. They get it from the war piggy bank. That is running out very fast. If that does, it's a house of cards. Poof, it all collapses. That's how it will happen in Russia. Now let's see a Russian goodwill gesture, because they're losing colonies left and right. They lost Syria, they're losing some countries in Africa, and now they're about to lose Transnistria. They don't want to do that, so they revert back to their old goodwill gestures. Russia to supply humanitarian aid gas to Transnistria. From 1st of January, the 5-year contract between exports of gas through Ukrainian pipeline through Europe ended. Ukraine didn't renew it, so Moldova and Transnistria were fully without gas, and it's a humanitarian catastrophe there. Now, Russia didn't give them any gas. They could have, just like that, but they stopped. There's there's a pipeline through Turkey that could continue the gas. Well, now finally Russians see that, damn it, we're going to lose Transnistria if we don't give them gas. So they're gonna goodwill gesture it, and they're just gonna continue sending the gas for free. And to end the Russian losses topic of this video, I got a picture of S-400 for you. It's beautiful, I love it, because what I'm seeing right now here is not just a burned vehicle of metal, it's export price, $1 billion worth of burned vehicle. I mean, it's obviously not that expensive, but they sell it with that price. They sell it to other countries, it's the export price. And two countries who actually, I mean, I gotta read the comments because they're really nice. Iran wanted them, realized they're useless after seeing the old US weapons destroy them. There was a lot of interest in India too, but they've realized the same thing. Russian kit is far from invincible. This happened, by the way, 2 days ago, so it's really nice. Foreign buyers will be looking somewhere else. The loss of foreign sales are done. The Russian can't use export sales to pay R&D now, so the weapons pipeline will be broken. They sell to the most anti-West democracies, belligerents. By the way, Turkey bought these S-400s for a massive inflated price. Turns out they're horrible. They just don't do the job. They are an air defense system. They can probably shoot down a very old fighter jet like a MiG or F-16 or before that. A-10 Warthog they can shoot down. Other than that, they're horrible and expensive, and Turkey wields them now. Good luck to them. Alright, now my friends, we'll begin the topic called USA. Because Trump and the Danish Prime Minister had a 45-minute talk about Greenland. Donald Trump did not back down from the threats during a conversation with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. According to Frederiksen, Trump reiterated the possibility of imposing tariffs if Denmark does not give up Greenland. What the hell? No. I quote the Danish PM. The US side suggested that unfortunately there might be a situation where we collaborate less with Americans in the economic sphere. We are in a serious situation. And I'm so sad to read this, because Denmark has been a staunch ally of the United States over 50 years more. They have been a very friendly country towards the US and wanting to cooperate almost with anything. So I don't understand this aggressiveness towards allies, key allies in Europe. Why? This is the friendship camp. This is where, you gotta stick together to fight a common enemy. But why attack your own? A lot of questions for me. Also, another hit from US to Europe that actually hurts Estonia also. US limits on AI chips split the EU. So United States have split the European Union into two camps. 17 EU member countries would have their access to microchips needed to train AI models capped, while 10 countries would face no restrictions. And just to make it more visually understandable, here is the chart. The black countries are limited. They cannot buy AI chips unlimited, and the yellow countries can buy as much as they want from the US. It's not connected to the border because Finland has a Russian border, but most of all of the Eastern European countries that have the Russian border are limited. And Finland is not. And Portugal for some reason. And also, what is this? Liechtenstein? What is this small country here? I'm sorry if one of the tiny ones, Liechtenstein, or I'm sorry if I make a mistake here. Thing is, it hurts us. It hurts our startups, that military startups also, who need these chips to train the AI models. It hurts Poland and their weapons production a lot. And I know I have a very limited understanding of United States security connected to AI chips procurement, but I don't think this is fair and I don't think this is good, because our military startups, the Baltics are like the staunchest allies of NATO. We need NATO more than ever. And to limit our capability to start new innovations in military production, we need these chips. It hurts us quite bad. And I don't know why they did it, honestly. And now, my friends, over a long time, we jump to Georgia, because it has not ended there, not even close. It's going worse and worse. People are demanding freedom and pro-European movement path for the country, because the Georgian Dream, pro-Russian party who effectively controls Georgia has moved them into the Russian sphere of influence fully. Well, now a strike began. About 400 businesses in Georgia closed for a strike. The first one since the 90s, so over 30 years, in a whole generation, that's the first strike. And people who are interviewed on the streets, they say that we want European Union integration, we want freedom, democracy, fair elections. That's why they strike. And by the way, the Georgian Dream has banned all kind of these kind of gatherings. So, and stopping of the traffic. So what the strike personnel and people who want freedom and EU integration, what they figured is, okay, we cannot stop traffic and strike. What we can do is use the crosswalks. This is just them using a zebra. People are allowed to walk over zebra. This is how they strike. I love the thought process here. They're not breaking any laws, by the way, right now. Way to go. Iceland and the Estonians and the Baltics, I can speak for the Baltics, Finland and Poland with this. We stand behind you, freedom-loving Georgian people. Don't stop until you get what you want. The EU integration, fair elections and justice in your country. Kick those Russian-loving Georgian Dream bastards out of your country. Go Georgia. Now, my friends, for the last time this week, Friday edition, I will be butchering monthly members of Buy Me a Coffee. People who are the foundation of this channel, supporting and giving me security to do these videos. I will butcher them with my Estonian pronunciation, and I will send you out, each and every one of you, I will send you this patch for your help, for your monthly membership. Just write to me, people, just write to me and I'll answer and send you the patch. Easy as that. Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. Gary L. Karper. Russell 74243552. Tommy Natkinjemi. Mikhail Brasher. Karl Skelts. Thank you, weird named people. I'll be continuing to deliver information for you every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. If you like my channel, become a monthly member of Buy Me a Coffee. Until my next video, my friends, which will be on Monday, subscribe. Be sure to be back. Slava Ukraini and bye-bye.
Kui mina ükskord noores eas võtsin vana naise, kui mina ükskord noores eas võtsin vana naise, siis tema kurat kiusas mind ühest päevast teise, siis tema kurat kiusas mind ühest päevast teise. Läksin surnuaiale, palusin seal surma, läksin surnuaiale, palusin seal surma. Tule surma, päästa mind, vii mu naine hauda, tule surma, päästa mind, vii mu naine hauda. Läksin koju tagasi, naine oli surnud, läksin koju tagasi, naine oli surnud, surmaingel oli ta oma kaasaks viinud, surmaingel oli ta oma kaasaks viinud.